Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where we discuss the latest highlights happening in the Italian tech and investment ecosystem. All right, let's start with the biggest deals of last week, starting from Cosmico, a talent tech startup raising 4 million euro from Prana Ventures, 40 gems, Intesa Sanpaolo, and a few business angels. So Cosmico has been getting a little bit of visibility. Very interesting business model, actually. It's kind of it's a way to provide the talent as a service, where basically they're pooling a lot of digital and creative talent together and try to match projects and company depending on the need. So it's a mix between a marketplace and I would say a digital conglomerate. Very, very interesting way to think about that, actually.
Yeah, I agree with your analysis. It's an interesting mixture of models in a sense. So talent agency, kind of a service agency, but with an ecosystem of professionals that they engage on demand based on whatever is the need incoming from the, let's call it, customer. So very very interesting model. That's probably a good possibility to scale in terms of if you're able to get incoming demand for talent and your talent pool is you keep it broad. There's a huge opportunity to work in that space. So very very interesting.
Yeah, I want to highlight one of the new player in the VC ecosystem, 40 Gems. It's been pretty active. We talked about 40 Gems this year, so that's interesting. And it's good to actually see them actually doing interesting investment. So definitely kudos to the team, and they're one of the fastest on the market right now. I mean, they started with a big claim of having a very very fast and flexible process. And I think they are sort of delivering on their promise. So, I mean, they're moving, and it's an interesting player to keep an eye on, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And this is the second on the third public round that they raised. I was taking a look on Crunchbase. They had two previous round, the seed round, and probably it is the same round. This one round in 2023, so a little bit more than the 1 year ago, almost 2 million, and now 4. So good pace.
Not too shabby.
Good pace. With Prana reinvesting and leading the round.
Prana also is a co-investor, and Intesa as well. Yeah. Awesome. All right, moving on, let's talk about Liftt. So Liftt joined $26 million round raised by Evergreen Theragnostic, life science startup. So we've seen both the companies, both Liftt and Evergreen Theragnostic, sort of moving in the past months. Liftt has been, of course, is always and confirmed to be one of the most active investor for sure. Evergreen Theragnostic also has been actually raising a fair amount of capital. Very interesting angle, actually. And I think, I'm not a life science expert, but I think it's interesting to actually point out a couple of key insights here. So essentially they're working on a radio pharmaceutical in general, which are used in cancer therapy. So basically, just to give a little bit of context, these are medicinal formulation containing radioisotope, which are used for both the diagnosis and the treatment of different diseases, including cancer. So very, very specific in the life science field. In a way, kind of close to Liftt founders with all this nuclear element going on. So there is this kind of scientific part, which in a sense is close by, I would say. And the other interesting element is that when it comes to business model, they are considered a CDMO, which is a contract development and manufacturing organization. which is a very interesting term because it's very popular in the bioscience and life science in general. And these are basically companies working with big pharmaceutical companies to actually speed up the pharmaceutical development process, if I'm not mistaken. And there are a bunch of companies doing this, and a lot of investors are actually looking in these kind of companies, especially when it comes to either working with pharmaceutical or developing their own patented technology and medicine. So that's it's an interesting thing to keep in mind when talking about life science, I think. Awesome. Another element I think that kind of stood out is Petrichor Capital Partner. It's kind of, I think it's the first time we see them. It's a US based company working in the biosciences. Again, Evergreen Theragnostic is funded by Italian, but it's not on Italian soil anymore. So they kind of made the switch. But yeah, definitely kept the connection with Liftt. Awesome. Right, moving on. Let's talk about CDP actually moving and launching Frontech Accelerator with Algorand and Microsoft as technical partners. What's your thought, Nix, on this one?
Well, I don't know about you, but I was kind of missing a new accelerator from CDP, so it was about time to hear about a new one. Uh, yeah, and I actually love this win. They have all the right buzzwords: Web3, AI, authentication, all those things that I really like and love. With actually very interesting partners. So Algorand is actually uh, one decentralized blockchain, so one approach to blockchain with very strong founder, Italian inventor and founder. Um, so very interesting set of partners. I'm really looking forward to see um, the participants to the program and the outcome. The model is always the same: 7 million euros of allocated capital, 3 years, a 3 years program, 10 startups per batch, one batch per year. So very nice. If you're operating in that space, take a look at the opportunity.
And it seems that the accelerator angle kind of reached a saturation point, or it's getting there. There is not the pace anymore. I mean, again, I think we are at 18 or 19 accelerator total, roughly. I might be mistaken on this. But I think, yeah, the pace slowed down. So they really are probably like getting to a point where, they need to manage, they need to deliver. And then they covered, as you were mentioning, like some of the major areas and the major keyword that are trending right now in the industry. So that's good. That's good news.
Yeah,
Let's see what's going to happen.
I agree with you. I think they covered most of the investment areas out there that make sense in an accelerated program. And now in a couple of years, I think it will be time to see how it went the entire program. So.
Awesome. Let's talk about Visma. Visma acquiring Fiscozen, which is good news for United Ventures, one of the initial investor in Fiscozen, and Keen Venture Partner, which is a Dutch company, a Dutch VC that also helped Fiscozen evolve. So Visma is an interesting company. So based in the Nordics. They've been acquiring about 154 companies in the software space. And again, talking about conglomerates and sort of M&A angle. So they're trying to actually acquiring companies that solve very specific problems with software in different countries for different angles. And Fiscozen, I think, is the first one related to Italy. So it's a way that Visma has to actually put their first foot into the Italian market. Very interesting for sure.
Yeah, agree. But nothing to add. So standard M&A operation. It's not clear whether they took a minority stake buying out the investors, so it's already a control stake. So don't remember from the article. Uh, but I hope it is a happy ending for United Ventures and Keen. Of course, it's always good to have money go around. Uh, so very nice and good news for the ecosystem. So another international
Definitely,
player acquiring
definitely.
a local
And I was
company.
also checking the owners of, or the beginning investors in Visma, and there are big private equity firms there, big funds, including actually like pension funds. So it's a very much of a private equity slash software slash venture structure. Very unique, I would say. I mean, it's something that you don't see that often in the venture space. So definitely a very interesting model. And my understanding is that they acquired a company for integration, but they keep the original team for operations in general. So the team is still there operating the company full time. On top of that, they have like a bunch of resources, including executives and board director that can actually support the growth. So it's really a growth move where Visma can actually support Fiscozen actually to go not only grow in Italy, but probably also go beyond the national boundaries. I mean, even though Fiscozen is very specific on Italian needs with the partite IVA and whatnot, but still the software can definitely be like replicable, and Visma is definitely a good place to understand that. Awesome. So let's talk about the first quarter, Nick. I know. So what is going on? Every year there are numbers, kind of a little bit of trying to match the number. A few people do some calculation, other people do some other calculation. There's no standard here. How many rounds happened in Italy in Q1? How many funds were raised? Is it from Italian founders in Italy? Is it Italian founder abroad? Is it a mix? Is it foreign founders in Italy, etc.? I mean, there's a bunch of assumption, I would say, and depending on the angle, there is no right answer. Of course, it's really where you want to put emphasis. Rough numbers sort of are pretty close, I would say. So, do you think it's a problem, first of all, if there are so many way of not assessing like in one way what is happening in the ecosystem? What is your thinking?
Yeah, I agree with you in a sense. So I'm part of the problem, if you will, because I've got my own take and I've got my own methodology, uh, which I think is not exactly the same as the other places. So with the venture capital monitor, the growth capital Italian Tech Alliance, quarterly startup update. So we all have our own approach. And that's fine. I mean, it's pretty well explained. It's explained by everybody. So I'm not that worried so much about the fact that there is difference. So sometimes the difference is pretty wide. For example, the number of rounds. So, it goes from 52 to 100 and something. So that's interesting. But I think that's not the key point. Um, the key point is that if you look at the single rows of the table, so there is a reality emerging, and that's my note. So my observation is that at the end of the day, 50% of the capital raised, give or take, is from Benny Spoons, so a big entrepreneurial success. We can say that. So the company is growing like crazy. It's raising capital. They're doing great. Excellent example for everybody. I love them. But still, they never raised the proper VC rounds. So they raised from angels, family offices, investment vehicles, private equity firms, hedge funds. So I mean, pretty much everybody then venture capital funds. So that's something in a sense. Debt, of course, a lot of debt. Um, so I mean, it, there is some kind of information coming from there. And then number two, MMI. So another excellent startup, great execution, launched in Pisa with Italian investors. But then, like in 2020, between 2021 and 2022, they flipped to the US. So it is actually an American company with a great Italian presence, so which is very good. But still, they had to flip. So it can be for regulatory needs, FDA approval of the process. That's absolutely something, some reason in that direction. But still, in order to raise the important funding, the latest round they had Fidelity probably as a main investors. So an American corporation is still much more palatable than an Italian SPA. So I mean, I love the execution, and I can argue that's on my side of the table, we dream of the idea of let's flip into an American corporation and raise $100 million. I would love the idea as an investor, but still, is that good news for us as an economy? Hmm, Up to a point, I think. And that's my observation, because if you remove the two major rounds, we have a good amount of seed Series A-ish rounds, and the numbers are quite lower. And then finally, we have the room that's very nice. They started covering Italy, and they published the Italian quarterly report. And again, that they give a pretty good overview of the Italian market, and they have the positive feedback about how we are growing and going. But still, number 8 out of 10 European
Yeah.
countries is that a success?
I agree. I mean, I agree. The thing is this: let's keep the positivity, but let's be real as well. The ecosystem is still small. Of course, there are outliers, which we can account for or not. Of course, it really depends what we want to see. And yeah, good news for like Italian founders actually managing to raise capital or even transplant their company in bigger ecosystem. That's definitely good news. Irrespectively of anything, I agree with you. But I would go back with one of your first insights at the beginning, like kind of when you compare the fundraise with GDP and the different ways of calculating those macroeconomic number. And I think that's actually the proper way to do it. So that's definitely like something to consider. So given all these assumptions, yeah, we just need to balance out our optimism, I would say. But yeah, there is a good ground for sure. It's moving. It's kind of picking up compared to last year, I would say. Not in the peaks of 2022 yet, but it's like sort of getting back to a mid range, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, I mean, I pretty love the Italian market. I'm investing in the Italian market. I really want it to thrive and grow. But I mean, I'm trying to, every now and then I detach from my role, take a look at reality, and try to, get a cold bath just to remember that we have still a lot of work to do. So,
All right, Nick, thank you so much for joining. And this is it for this week's episode. And I'll see you all next week.
ciao, Jack. Take care. Ciao, everybody. Have a great week.